Psst, check out my Patreon.
Aye, we're really getting down to the wire here, folks. Man Up for the Donnyest game, the final entry in the Man Up tetralogy spanning all 3 seasons of the reboot. Strangely enough, unlike Man Up 2 or 3, Man Up 4 actually decided to change the title card design this time around, which honestly at this point just makes it feel all the more inconsistent. I know I criticized this in Man Up 3 when I pointed out how the same title card design was reused for the sequel episodes, but by the 4th episode the show is too far in. Deciding to go and switch things up now? Seriously? At this point it's just become synonymous with Man Up episodes. Changing it now is even more incompetent than just leaving it as it was. If the show wanted to stick to its guns, it would have kept the same log/2-man combo across the board, but instead, in classical reboot fashion, it switched things up to create even more inconsistency. Luckily, this also marks the final appearance of everyone's favorite lovable buffoon, Donny, as I'm sure you could tell by the subtitle of this edition of Man Up. That's another inconsistency that bothers me here. All of the titles before this point were based around puns of typical sequel-sounding titles with the word man inserted into it somehow. Man Up 2, Still Manning, Man Up 3, The Good, the Bad, and the Manly, and now we have the Donnyest game. I guess Donny overrides Manboy in the reboot's list of priorities. This is easily the most out-of-place episode in the Man Up tetralogy when it comes to titles. The only thing really linking these episodes together, however, is just the fact that Manboy is the villain in them. That's about it. There's no overarching plot or anything. They're very self-contained stories. But man, it feels really strange knowing that the end of the reboot is closing in fast, what with Man Up 4 marking a rather symbolic wrap-up to the long-running staple of the series. I mean, yes, I know it wasn't super frequent because the Man Up episodes only had 4 entries, but this is similar to the stapled Caked episodes from Kids Next Door that would make an appearance in every single season of that show. Besides, Man Up 1 was also the first taste we ever got of the reboot when Cartoon Network released it online a month in advance of the series premiere. Oh, how much simpler times were back then. I remember thinking to myself that it just looked bad, and I wasn't impressed by it in the slightest. Yeah, little did I realize how deep this rabbit hole was going to go. And that I'd dedicate the next 5 years of my life to making videos about it on the internet. But I'm not done yet. This episode still needs reviewed, so without further ado, shall we? Let's shall.
Jams like this before. You think you're so tough? Well, we'll see about that.
The episode begins with Donny battling a jar of strawberry jam, and to the surprise of no one, the strawberry jam is winning. It is here where we are established with the basic premise of the episode, namely that the Utonium family has a yearly tradition of seeing which of the girls can pick the largest number of strawberries within a 1-hour time limit, and whoever wins gets their photograph put up on the fridge.
On the fridge?
Destiny. She calls out the name. Danny.
Her name is Donny.
Donny.
Donny is invigorated by the idea and enthralled that the girls decided to invite him along to participate this year, although because of his gross incompetence, which still reigns supreme this late into the series, he likely doesn't stand a chance against Blossom's overly meticulous collecting methods or Buttercup's reckless vacuum strategy. But he doesn't really seem in it to win it either, he's just here to have fun with his best friend Bubbles. Unfortunately, he doesn't get to enjoy that fun because before long, the mayor calls about the blimp shrimp that's attacking the town. As I'm sure you can guess by this point, the reboot decides that instead of showing us the exciting action and fighting that takes place between the Powerpuff Girls and this shrimp monster, we get stuck watching Donny be an idiot because he's clearly what the audience is more interested in, right? Man, this is the exact same thing that just happened in Watch It. And I'm sure you're wondering by now where the heck Manboy is. This is called Man Up 4, right? Where's the staple villain that always shows up in these episodes? Why? He's busy plotting in the bushes to destroy Donny in a fight.
There he is, the most dangerous mythological creature of all, a unicorn.
Yes, in this reboot's universe, unicorns are apparently depicted in fiction as these all-powerful beings proficient in camouflage and tracking their prey.
Well, it says here unicorns are incredibly powerful, experts at camouflage, and capable of tracking their opponents across many miles.
But considering our experiences with both Donny and the other members of his species, I don't really think that fits the bill. In fact, the only unicorn that does seem suited to fit this description is the Terminator unicorn that chased Donny and the Powerpuff Girls around in the last Donnycorn. But even then, that wasn't a real unicorn, that was a robot being controlled by a sock, which still to this day has never been explained. The reason for Manboy wanting to take down a unicorn is because he believes it will prove himself as a man for him to best it in combat. Although I don't really see how this is proving anything to anybody, but okay. Anyways, once the Powerpuff Girls have left, he sets a trap for Donny to fall for, which he does, and Manboy quickly realizes that this unicorn is the most pathetic creature he's ever laid eyes on. This in turn leads Manboy to want to train Donny into this beastly creature that's described in his stock image dictionary so that he can take on a true opponent and feel confident after overcoming the challenge. Donny, being the blissfully unaware nincompoop that he is, agrees to this no questions asked, and you better believe that next we get a montage, which is completely self-aware that it's a montage. It also goes on for like a minute straight and could very well be the longest montage in the entire series. If it weren't for the fact that I'd have to go back to every single montage the series has ever put on and time them to compare their length to this one, I'd be able to verify it for you, but I'm pretty sure this is the longest one. As I mentioned, it's self-aware. So self-aware, in fact, that I'm going to read you the exact transcript of the song's lyrics that are heard over this sequence. Bet you can't guess what's happening here. Time is of the essence, so we'll make it clear. We've only got a minute for a montage song because this show's only 10 minutes long, even though it's 11 minutes, but okay. A montage is happening to extrapolate the premise and strengthen the plot, yeah. I disagree. It feels like this montage is only here to get us from point A to point B and nothing more. A montage is happening because somebody has to learn the ropes. This line literally rhymes with nothing and it feels extremely out of place. If you change the chord right here, it's really cool because they changed the chord of the song, zippity-doo-dah. You bet someone's taking someone else to school. I don't know what the fuck this line means or what it's doing here because this is saying absolutely nothing. Just repeat that progression again, let the tension build as they learn more stuff, wait a little longer till things get rough. I don't have to wait, all of these lyrics have been rough so far. A montage is happening, just wait for them to hug so you know that it's over, a montage is happening. Yeah, first things first, this show should know that its episodes are 11 minutes long, not 10, but more importantly, the fact that the song is self-aware that it's a montage doesn't excuse the laziness of the lyrics. Why are they even here? What did they add to this sequence that wouldn't otherwise be obtained by a purely instrumental piece? Oh yeah, look, what an astute observation. This montage is also only here to progress the plot forward so that Donny can become super buff and ripped and uncomfortably muscular because this show really has a creepy obsession with making characters overly muscular when they really don't need to be. Like seriously, I'm actually uncomfortable with how frequently this occurs now. I'm not saying there's ulterior motives involved, but I will say it wouldn't surprise me if we found out there were someday.
I'm it alright. I'm the whole kid and caboodle.
Yeah, right.
Eventually, the montage wraps up and Manboy is finally ready to strike at him to get this show on the road. But Donny gets the jump on him and starts chasing him down instead, quickly turning the tides as Manboy is now the wimp who's running for his life. Although, unlike Man Up 3 where he loses his beard from being a coward, this time no such thing happens, so there's another character inconsistency. I mean, this dude is scared shitless by Donny hunting him down, so really the same exact thing should happen like in Man Up 3 where his beard recedes from his face and he acts like a whiny crybaby. But because continuity isn't a thought to this show, that never happens. Meanwhile, while all this was going on, the girls have bested the blimp shrimp off screen and are now ready to begin their competition without Donny because I guess apparently they forgot about him participating. Like, they straight up don't even acknowledge his absence. Instead, Blossom's too caught up on criticizing Buttercup's strategy for him to even be a thought to them.
And that's gonna be me this year thanks to my secret weapon.
Please don't tell me it's the vacuum.
It's the vacuum!
Yeah, I don't see how a little hand vacuum like that is going to get her anywhere, but hey, that's not my problem. Donny runs by and the girls are reminded that he's here too, and they all set off to find as many strawberries as they can within the 1 hour time limit. Donnie's not concerned with the strawberry hunt, however, because he's too busy hunting Man-Boy down. The next 3 minutes of the episode or so just become a prolonged chase sequence where Man-Boy goes and hides somewhere, Donnie finds him, lather, rinse, repeat. It's one large game of cat and mouse, although I'd rather be watching Tom and Jerry if that's the formula at play. At one instance, when Man-Boy hides in a bush, Donnie sees him after Buttercup vacuums it up while getting chased by the same park ranger she got in trouble with the previous year. Later, he tries trapping Donnie with more churros, and Donnie breaks out without even having to try. All of Man-Boy's futile attempts ultimately results in his failure because Donnie gets the upper hand on him every single time. The ironic value in Donnie chasing Man-Boy all around this forest is lost, however, because they made him so much stronger and intimidating. This would have been better if he had stayed his wimpy, dinky self, if I'm being honest. Not only does Man-Boy get covered in strawberry jam, which in turn causes those ants to return from the opening of the episode and attack him, but he runs through a bee's nest and a shark, and even ends up falling in a river.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, thank you, show, for pointing us to where Man-Boy is in this shot, because we're clearly incapable as audience members to figure it out ourselves and need you to hold our hand through everything every single time. Seriously, what else in this frame did the show expect us to be looking at? Those trees in the top left corner, those clouds over there, the giant stagnant splotch of blue, like... This shot remains on screen long enough for us to notice the black silhouette moving at the top and falling over the waterfall. It is impossible to miss. It's got the most movement out of everything in the frame. Furthermore, if the show chose to point us to where Man-Boy was in this frame because it thought we might be unable to tell where he was, wouldn't one think that maybe the show should have tried showing this from a different point of view? Like, imagine if I went to a park to film a... You know what? Fuck it. I'll go do it right now. Hey, you see that car right there? I don't know if you guys can tell. I don't know if you can tell where it is on the screen, or that there's a car that's driving on the road, but it's right there. It appears that it is time for Man-Boy to meet his demise, as Donnie approaches him on the shoreline and prepares to finish him off, while the guy begs for mercy and cries for him to spare his life, claiming that he will give up his tirade on woodland creatures and spend the rest of his life in secrecy. Donnie ain't having it, though.
I just have one thing to say.
Boom! Dad, you're it! Okay, now you chase me!
Yep, this entire time Donnie thought they were just playing tag. Why he felt the need to put on this macho man persona and act all tough to scare Man-Boy out of his wits, I have no idea, but I'm willing to chalk it up to him just playing a character because he thought it would be fun. There is a little foreshadowing to this when Donnie breaks character to grab those 2 churros on the ground, and his dialogue is made vague enough for it to be interpreted multiple ways, so there is a little justification for this. Man-Boy's not so happy to hear about it, however, so he goes to charge at Donnie head first and smacks straight into a giant tree that timbers down on top of him. Kinda fitting that a tree falling on him is how we see his character defeated for the final time, considering his association with lumberjacks. He's got that giant wooden mech and wooden tank being his main contraptions in Man Up 1 to his log cabin home, which is seen in Man Up 2 and 3. I doubt this show had anything poetic in mind when choosing to end it this way. This seems more like mere coincidence, but hey, it's a happy coincidence nonetheless. But after a transition forward in time, Donnie makes his way back to the girls who we see counting up their strawberries at the end of the 1 hour time limit. Buttercup somehow sucked up that park ranger that was chasing her with this tiny hand vacuum. Don't ask me how, and I don't want to know. And Bubbles seems to have eaten all of hers, so she's come back empty-handed. Not gonna lie though, that visual detail made me chuckle. That does seem like a very Bubbles thing to do. Blossom is looking to have this thing locked down for the 5th year in a row, until Donnie comes in out of nowhere to undo her final score.
Has anyone seen... Donnie!
Whoa! Nice, dude!
You found a strawberry tree!
This show is aware that strawberries don't grow on trees, right? I doubt it, but this show doesn't care about the little details anyway, so the characters just roll with it and Donnie gets his picture taken and posted up on the fridge, ending the episode. Apparently, the criteria for winning is only having the most strawberries in their possession at the end of the competition, not to have the most strawberries in pristine condition and picked off the vines. Also, where did his muscles go? And that's the end of Man Up 4. So what have we learned after watching this episode? Well, Donny still sucks, Man-Boy gets less threatening with every entry in the tetralogy, and strawberries don't grow on trees. What a strange episode this one was. If I were to rank the order of Man Up episodes from best to worst, I'd probably put number 2 at the top, followed by 4, then 3, then 1. Yeah, I find this is my second favorite Man Up episode. Despite the absurdity of Donny being this ultra-ripped commando, his threatening power over Man-Boy certainly felt when he chases him around throughout the woods. Although, that's another thing. I wish the environmental atmosphere was more reflective of Man-Boy's situation. The juxtaposition of Man-Boy's fear and terror as he runs away from this killer unicorn with the lively green natural environment makes it feel out of place. It would have been cooler if we got a setting change or even a switch in the animation style, possibly the color palette being adjusted. But nah, instead it's just the standard reboot look. It's also a bit odd how Man-Boy establishes that there are 3 major traits of unicorns according to this book, those being all-powerful, camouflage, and stalking their prey over many miles. This is good foreshadowing towards how Donny ends up stalking Man-Boy down in this game of tag, but not once does he use camouflage. He certainly appears powerful, but we rarely get to see a sense of that power other than him walking through a log. Obviously, he chases him all over the woods, but never once does he try to hide or disguise himself. Then again, maybe that's what the camo pants are supposed to be compensating for? I don't know. That's my best guess. But as a whole, despite this being a finale to both the Man Up series and Donny as a character, it doesn't really feel like a finale. I don't know if the show was planning on making a 4th season or if it just didn't care to conclude anything, but this could certainly have been either. Although, based on how other characters have received conclusions this season, I'm more inclined to believe the latter. I'm not saying it has to be conclusive in any sense, plenty of shows don't do this, but it would have been nice if it was. Truth be told, even though I don't really care for Man Up 3 all that much, that one definitely did feel like a conclusion considering it showed Man-Boy kind of grow as a character, and it felt like the penultimate case of him using his beard powers to maximum effect. This isn't a cliffhanger either, it just feels like another episode of the show. There aren't grander stakes, it's just Man-Boy and Donny in the town park, which also happens to be a forest, and the girls are there too, picking strawberries, but never interact with Man-Boy whatsoever. And that about does it for Man Up 4, the Donnyest game. Not a terrible episode by any stretch of the imagination. Could this have been more than it was? Certainly, but I'll take this. I'm not fully satisfied, but I'll take it.